This episode of The Patch is brought to you by Hulu Plus. Watch your favorite shows anytime, anywhere with Hulu Plus. On your TV or on the go with your smartphone or tablet. Shows like Family Guy, Once Upon a Time, New Girl, Scandal, and more. Right now you can try Hulu Plus free for 2 weeks when you go to huluplus.com/patch. Everyone, welcome to The Patch.
Hi.
Fresh off the heels of our last episode, which was 60 minutes on the dot, we're going to be a lot more diligent.
Anything else about that episode but that on Twitter. That's all anyone would tell me is, hey, Burnie, you were on The Patch, and it would last exactly 60 minutes.
Exactly, on the dot.
Congratulations, Gus. 60-minute patch.
Excellent. Gus wins.
How do you like having that reputation?
That's awesome. I love it. It just like plays into my persona as a dictator and like a totalitarian who follows the rules to the T.
Chrono orgasm.
I'd always been upset that the previous episodes would normally go 61. So I was happy to get it back at
Stick it in your
60.
craw.
Yeah.
If you go and look at iTunes and the delivery of the episodes, when you see it by episode, it's like literally everything's within a minute of an end time, except for one episode you weren't on. It's like an hour 14.
I've missed 2 episodes, and I think both of them were like an hour 10, an hour 14, somewhere in that area.
We're just not concise.
No one here to stop
That's all
us.
it boils down to. I want to do that too.
Yeah, my hair was like sticking out there. That's what you see yourself in the camera, you can fix yourself. Hey, so anyway, The Patch, here to talk about video game news, not about my stupid hair.
You want to stroke your hair some more? And then we're good? Okay.
I think I'm going to lead with my favorite story of the week, which
Do it.
just broke today. Noriega suing Activision over his depiction in Black Ops 2.
I didn't even know that was an option. I didn't know former dictators had rights in terms of their likeness usage.
Yeah, I guess he didn't like the way he was portrayed in history.
He's a dictator.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody would self-describe themselves as a dictator except for Gus when he talks about the patch. And does that kind of go out the window? I mean, does a dictator not have rights over their own image and the way they're portrayed? I don't think it says that you can't libel someone unless they're an asshole.
Have you ever heard of a good dictator?
The quote is that the lawsuit claims that he is portrayed as a, quote, kidnapper, murderer, and enemy of the state.
Well, I guess to be fair,
I think all of those things might be true.
Well, you can't be an enemy of the state if you are the state.
I know, right? I mean, isn't every leader the enemy of some other state? I mean, isn't that the way that works?
Yeah.
I mean, like our president would be labeled enemy of the state for other countries.
Well, I think it's implied he means the United States here.
I'm sure. Of the states.
So he for those who don't remember, he was actually in prison for 2 decades on drug trafficking charges following the invasion of Panama. So, I mean, it's not like he's super squeaky clean. Maybe he's taking a play out of the Lindsay Lohan playbook.
So to disprove the fact that he's a really bad guy, he's suing a video game company. I don't know if that counts, Gavin. You kind of missed.
What happened?
It's the Gavin's normal.
He
missed last week. Well, 2 weeks ago he missed. Like he just completely whiffed. He like hit the back of the TV. He didn't make it a foot out of his hand.
That sounds very Gavin.
He was supposed to go down a notch and instead went to this cool little thing that somebody gave us.
Anyway, Noriega. Were you talking about it? Were you making a point?
Yeah, I mean, how do you prove you're not a shithead by suing a video game company that makes a beloved video game? No, I'm seriously, I'm a good guy, but you guys are.
Well, he's just saying that they're portraying him in an unflattering light.
I've been in prison for 2 decades. I'm suing people too. Fuck it. What has he got to lose at that point?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the biggest video game franchises in history, and he's in it. He's like, yeah, I totally get it. And does he not have rights, either as a former dictator, if that is that actually a classification?
Even the fact that they used his likeness, right?
Right.
I mean,
he's still
should
a
he
person.
get some kind of residual?
Yeah.
Or, get paid for the use of his character? If there was a video game and, like, all of a sudden you're playing and there's Gus and he's running a podcast, you'd be like, what the fuck? That's me. If it's me. I'd sue a bitch.
Yeah, well, there's that weird like level of fair use that has to do with like political figures.
Sure.
Because then it becomes
public figures in a way.
Yeah, all you have to do is say it's satire and then you're good.
Absolutely. Like a good
Is that
example.
what it says? Like you open the legal book, say it's satire, and you're good.
All good. Yeah.
That's day one of law school.
I quote the precedent of say it's satire.
Well, if you look at like, it goes back to movies, which, video games and movies, you can draw a lot of correlations between legality there. But like, I was just recently watching the movie Contact, and Bill Clinton is used in the movie because he was president.
Extensively, yeah.
Yeah, and they like digitally superimposed him in scenes with Jodie Foster and Tom Skerritt. And they could use him that. And there's actually something going on right now in traditional media and film where Seth Rogen and James Franco are in a movie called The Interview, where the goal of the characters in the movie is to assassinate Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea. And North Korea's like, you guys are making a movie about assassinating a head of state. It's not cool to do that. I gotta say,
they made a video about nuking New York. Who are they to talk?
Listen, I gotta say, if somebody else made a movie about assassinating our president, I'm speaking very hypothetically here, NSA, if someone did that, we would all have a major problem with that.
Yeah,
would we not?
I'm sure that movie's been made
We've
in
made
North
that
Korea.
movie. We've made it in the U.S. There've been movies where the president's gotten assassinated. What was the Olympus Down or whatever? He didn't get assassinated, but he got really messed up.
He was attacked.
Where the
Yeah.
goal is to assassinate. But it's not a comedy about assassinating the president. It's not the goal of the protagonist to assassinate them. It is a plot where there's a villain. I think it's a little bit of a different setup.
Do you
there.
really not see a day where Hollywood will make that movie already?
I totally could see it.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm sure there are actual, funded independent films about assassinating the president.
Where was the last Harold and Kumar movie? They smoked weed with President Bush.
Oh, right.
Committing a crime. But listen, I totally get the objections. I don't want to I'm really taking a really devil's advocate side here of siding with the leader of North Korea and the former leader of Panama. When I say I totally get it. I mean, they're still people. They are still people.
Once you get
the
deported from the U.S., you're going to have friends in high places.
Yeah.
Like, oh, remember, you stuck up for us in that podcast.
I'll be great. I actually know people that were involved with the operation when they went and got Noriega.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I worked with a guy at our old tech support center.
Really?
Yeah, it was really funny. Like there was been a while since the U.S. had an active military operation. And so he talked about like some of the stuff that went on, like they came under friendly fire. One of the guys, when they were running up a staircase, shot the helmet off the guy in front of him because he accidentally pulled the trigger. So not
it's like Army 101.
Yeah, and like getting like pulled out of jeeps and stuff like that by citizens and things like that. Like really scary stuff. Mm-hmm. But back to the point. If someone is used in a video game, I mean, I don't know where you draw the line. I mean, they are a public figure. He is a convicted felon, I believe, if he spent 20 years in jail. I don't know the exact crime he was charged with, but he did spend 20 years in jail. Drug trafficking. So do his rights go out the window at that point in time? Don't forget, before Lindsay Lohan sued, there was a lawsuit against Rockstar from the daughter of a alleged mobster. And her story was put into Grand Theft Auto 5 where she was buried alive. And it was one of those random side missions that you pick up as you just drive around.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. And she sued because it was used from her story in real life where she was buried alive and then got out.
Oh, I remember that mission.
Yeah.
It was an easy mission.
Look, I think the mob just need to get more creative. Like all the ways that they normally kill people have been kind of laid out there in movies, and so they're going to get used. Allegedly. They need to come up with new stuff, allegedly.
This need to innovate.
That's the problem. It's like copyright. If like Xerox, they lost their trademark because everybody was using Xerox as a standard name for how to copy things, right?
Did they?
Yeah.
Did they lose the trademark to that?
I think so. Yes.
Really? Mega's saying yes.
Yeah.
We got off-screen confirmation.
Yeah. If
we
you
need fact checkers. So
if it becomes synonymous with just the act of doing it, if that becomes a verb, then you can't.
Does Xerox even make Xerox machines anymore?
Or
it's a good
photocopiers.
A lot of stuff came out of Xerox Lab, like Ethernet came out of Xerox Labs, and it's just like, we'll just give that away.
User interface.
Yeah, I think didn't they invent Token Ring as well?
Mouse,
one of the early protocols for.
I thought Token Ring was IBM.
Might
could be wrong.
But a lot of these things for a lot of these labs, like they didn't realize what they were inventing while their main product was selling, and these were major technologies that we use today that would be worth a lot of money.
Yeah, people would have endless lawsuits over.
Yeah, maybe they will. Maybe Call of Duty will focus a game on Ethernet technology.
No, they gave that away. That's out there, man. You can't take that back.
Xerox can still make money from it in some way.
What's the chances that Noriega is now the enemy in the next 3 Call of Duty games?
Neil Patrick Harris is going to say
I like Call of Duty. We'll go with that.
It would kind of suck to be playing a video game and realize, I'm the villain. I'm like literally the worst person in this game that 12 million people are playing right now. That would be kind of a bummer.
That would be kind of cool.
Wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I'd be like, nice.
Do you think like a dude like Noriega has like a feeling of like, yeah, I'm a really bad dude. Like I'm like one of the worst people on the planet.
He's got to have a positive self-image, right? I mean, what else has he got left?
I'm sure there's people way worse than Noriega.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like like Coney or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, could he have a lawsuit? It might be interesting to make video games to draw these people out.
Right, that's what I was going to say, to get them out of hiding.
It's like, wait till he shows up in court to sue, and then we'll get him.
Oh, man. So, I'm going to move on here.
Yeah.
I read earlier today also that The Last of Us Remastered, which comes out later this month on the PS4, has an option to lock the frame rate to 30 frames a second.
I read that. I would totally do it.
Which seems like a...
Why?
Why? Yeah. Why?
I'm one of those people. Where it's like, the best way I could describe it, my parents, they got a high-def TV during the high-def revolution, and I went down to their house in Houston. I looked and I go, what are you doing? I go, it was a big projection TV and it looked like garbage. And they were watching the standard def channels. And I said, here, let me show you. And I put it on high def for them. And they were like, I don't like that. I hate that. And I'm like, it's just a higher resolution image. And they go, yeah, it looks weird. Turn it back. So they would watch standard def. They wouldn't watch high def. And with higher frame rates, I'm just one of those people, like, it just bothers me. Like motion smoothing and all that stuff, it just bothers me. Like, I know it's not the same thing. But like 48 frame movies, I will always watch the 24 frame version of it.
Yeah, this isn't like 120 frames or anything. I think the native resolution is 1080p 60 frames a second.
Right.
Which isn't that big of a difference.
I don't know how to describe it. Like, and I can't, honestly, it's a very specific thing. I can't tell the difference between 1080 and 720 high def. To me, it looks just about the same. And it's like, if I can, like, if I'm recording on PC, and I record on Fraps, for instance, doing capture, I'll just drop it down to 720.
It's really largely dependent on the screen size for you to see that difference.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
We got a tweet here from Adam Baird saying Token Ring is IBM.
Token Ring is IBM. Thank you very much.
Thank you at Gruff Tech for that heads up fact.
Everyone's helping out today on the pads. Meg's over there saying Xerox lost their trademark.
Lending a hand.
Adam Baird helping us keep up to date on a dead technology.
Yeah, and he even wrote "Long let it be dead" or something like that. Mm-hmm. May it forever stay dead is what he wrote.
I would imagine so.
So last night I was looking for a game to play. It's been a little while since I've been really playing something.
Before we get too far away, though, you guys would all do 60 frames for Last of Us.
I think so, unless I look at it and I'm playing it and I see something bizarre that bothers me. But yeah, absolutely, I'd play it at 60 frames a second.
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that the only reason they're even providing that option is to help prevent more frame tearing. I doubt it has anything, because 60 frames per second is pretty much a standard for PC gaming for a
very long time.
In fact, the TV refresh rate's still 60 hertz. So most of the time you're looking at, well, it's 30, but it's like frame doubled. But so I mean, 60s, you're not going to see a big difference with 60. It's only slightly better.
And I always notice it when I'm turning, like in a first person shoot. And Last of Us is like third person essentially, where you're over the shoulder. But that's when I notice it, and it just bothers me. And it's like James Cameron, when he talks about moving to higher frame rates for film, he hates the way 24 frames looks when it's like stutter, and when you pan the camera the way it looks. I like that. If there's too much visual fidelity on a pan, it feels strange to me. And it's just, I recognize that my opinion is obsolete, but at the same time, it's just what I personally prefer. And I'm glad they put the option in. I'm usually one of those people, it's like when you put backwards compatibility in something, I'm like, that's a waste of time. You're just like servicing people for a year who want the backwards compatibility while a new generation of consoles takes off. But essentially, this is backwards compatibility for my own brain, and I appreciate that they're doing it. So it's even a little bit counter to what I've said in the past, but it's just the way I feel about it. So
I decided to look it up just because we're talking about it here. Apparently, The Last of Us on the PS3 ran natively at 720p and was locked at 30 frames a second.
So that's the way I played it. So look, I'm a purist. That's all I can say.
It's the same experience.
That backs you up.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think they're going to add a feature in unless there's a difference. And people have noted that there's a difference. They went out of their way to put a feature in to lock it at 30 frames. What other console game has that?
I will say, YouTube has just recently updated to allow 60 frames per second as well. And looking at some of the 60 frame per second videos, it is noticeable. It's odd. It's more noticeable to me there than it is playing a video game running at 60 frames per second.
Yep.
I don't know why. Maybe it's just because YouTube, I'm used to being significantly lower frame rate.
Exactly. Like you said, 60 frames has pretty much been the standard of PC gaming, and you identify more as a PC gamer.
Well, I guess the other thing is probably when it's streaming through YouTube, I don't know that you're getting that frame doubling effect, so you may be getting a legit 30 instead of 30 doubled. So you're still seeing 60. It's just every other frame is a copy of the one before.
Right. So AB field, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Could be that maybe it's just a true 30 YouTube effect.
You know, Freddie Wong, when he made Video Game High School, he was way ahead of the curve of that, where he had a higher frame rate for his video game footage. It's all live action, but whatever he shot that was in the video game, he had to go out and get players that could play at a higher frame rate for those scenes, and he had to build that in. It was a challenge for him to do that.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, it was really cool because most players didn't do it. But when he put it on like his owned and operated stuff, he wanted to make sure it could play at a higher frame rate for that.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Anyway, like I was saying,
yes,
I was looking for a game to play last night.
Sorry, thank you.
And I don't know, I've been kind of in a drought lately. I haven't really been finding much to play. But I saw that Guacamelee was available for like free with Games with Gold. So I played that a bit. I don't know, it's a platformer. Not really my cup of tea. It's got a cool art style to it.
Yeah.
But I just read this morning that apparently Battle Block Theater is now available on Games with Gold.
Right.
So I don't know if that just changed last night and I got Guacamelee at the last minute or what happened.
If you don't like platformers, you do not want to play Battle Block Theater.
I've played every other Behemoth game and liked them. I've just never gotten around to Battle Block Theater for some reason.
It's interesting you say that, because I like Behemoth as an entity. I like him as a whole, but I can't really identify as like my favorite Behemoth title.
Castle Crashers, right?
Castle Crashers is a game that a lot of people liked, and it was the top of the charts of Xbox Live Arcade for an entire generation. For the entire Xbox 360, it was up at the if it wasn't the top spot, it was in the top 5. It was always up there. I never really got into Castle Crashers. I never really got into it.
I loved it.
My kid, when he was like 4, also deleted my level 99 Blue Knight.
You were never into it, but you had a level 99 Blue Knight.
I had an exploit where, the cat in the river?
Yeah.
You could use the boomerang to just trap the boomerang behind its head before they patched it. I actually went to, when we were in the Congress office, I went back to an old box that hadn't been patched.
Oh, God.
And disconnected it from the network and played on there. And then got my level 99 Knight. And then, of course, since I got it illegitimately, after it was deleted, I was like, I can't get it now. I didn't even get it the first time.
You're not going to go back and do all that work you didn't do the first time.
Yeah. What night did you play?
I didn't play.
Green.
You never played?
I've never played Castle Crashers.
You have Gus disease this week.
I do. Something wrong with my tongue. Yeah, never played it.
Really? Yeah. And do you like Battle Block? Because I know you guys have played that a ton in Achievement Hunter.
They played it. I haven't played that one either.
You have never been in one of those Let's Plays? Mm-mm. Oh, that's too bad. I mean, it seems like tailor-made for...
Yeah. I'm
Gavin's
sad
great in those.
Is he?
We're back, bitches, and then immediately jumped off.
No, that was Cloudberry Kingdom. Was it?
Oh, maybe I'm thinking about
that was Cloudberry Kingdom.
I am thinking about that, I think. Cloudberry Kingdom. I was. For those Let's Plays.
That was completely platforming. That was a ridiculous platform.
That game is absolutely crazy.
It's
especially some of those later levels where it's like the screen is filled with stuff to kill you.
I think we played a whole bunch of it in one block, and it was like a year ago. And I think the last episode of that just came out. And so now we're thinking about, do we try and do some more? But we would be jumping back into the part of the game that is just nigh impossible. It'd be like one level per Let's Play.
Yeah, it's just absolutely brutal, and you've lost all your
no talent for it at all anymore. Oh, they'd see that one level for about 12 feet of it.
Yeah, as long as Michael is screaming at the top of his lungs and Gavin about it, I think they would love to see it.
That's pretty much how it usually goes.
That's usually how it goes.
Game with Gold usually does a refresh right around the 15th, right? They swap out one game or two.
Yeah, so I guess I got in there just in time. It's something that I normally don't take advantage of. The games with Gold and the free games you get with PlayStation Plus, I end up missing them unless there's one that I'm really like, okay, I need to get that. Or
they had came out with some really strong titles there earlier on, right leading up to the major console releases, and then now it's just kind of tailored down to stuff that I guess they couldn't move easily.
Yeah. I missed Sleeping Dogs, which I still haven't played. It was one of the games I wanted to get, and that was a perfect opportunity, and I just didn't do it like a big dumb idiot.
I actually picked it up and I played it for a while and I still haven't finished it. There's something about the driving in that game is just not that enjoyable.
Just take a taxi.
I could do that.
Just walk. Be a non-driving citizen.
Yeah, I love taxis in those open world games. I know I reached the point in the game where I'm like, okay, I'm never going to get a car again. I'm just going to taxi everywhere I go.
Yeah, in GTA 5, I drove for a bit and I was like, nah. I have to drive all the way back out to the desert again? No, I'm taking a taxi.
Yeah.
And then you have the option... skipping the taxi ride's an option. Like, you can ride in there if you want to. Who the fuck wants to ride in there?
Hey, sometimes you want to watch.
Dude, people love the conversational stuff that takes place in those games. I mean, I know it gets old fast. Like, any kind of like the radio stations I know are a big deal every time GTA comes out. And they should really update that for DLC because I think people would go nuts for it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of content. You remember in GTA 3 or 4 when the Baz Rutten TV show that was on? That was GTA 4.
I never played 4, so.
Oh, really? You never did with Nico in it?
Yeah.
Oh, there was a whole Boss Rutten, the MMA fighter. He had a whole show on the TV, and it was like people captured that and put it online. It was so freaking funny.
Interesting.
It's brilliant. All the content they make for like the in-world media or in-universe media for Grand Theft Auto is really intense. I'd love to see just behind the scenes on the production of that stuff because it's got to be a lot.
Yeah. I don't know why I never played 4. I played every other GTA.
Well, you hate sandboxes, don't you?
Yeah, but I've played every one of them. Every GTA game. 4 is the only one I haven't played. I guess I should go back and play.
4 was a big one to miss.
Yeah. I don't know. I think what happened was I got really sick the day it came out, and I tried to play it, and then I just in my head I associate being really ill with trying to play GTA 4.
It's like
Really?
you get food poisoning from somewhere and you never want to go there again.
Yeah,
that was like a next level game when they came out. I mean, GTA 5 was great, but I mean, the step from GTA 3 to GTA 4 was like a totally different world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I was sick for like 2 weeks, so I was like, I don't want to go back and revisit that memory.
The GTA franchise in general, like when I go back and look at like beloved games, like when I look at like screenshots from San Andreas, it looks like people are playing like a VR polygon game. And they're on bikes, like jumping over skyscrapers.
Have you seen that video? Someone, I guess a couple weeks ago, Rockstar released that trailer showing GTA 5 running on current gen platforms like Xbox One and PS4. Someone recreated that trailer using GTA San Andreas. Yeah. Showing like how much the GTA series has evolved in 10 years, because San Andreas came out in 2004 and the new version of GTA 5 will be 2014, and shot for shot they tried to recreate the entire thing. It's really jarring.
I bet the pre-visuals for GTA 5 were higher fidelity than the finished product for San Andreas.
Probably.
Yeah.
It was like blocks, polygons, It was just like, ugh, that looked great 10 years ago. 10 years ago we were like, wow.
So realistic.
Amazing.
Yeah. What an immersive environment. I'd like to see like GTA 5 like with texture pops, but like before it fills everything in, and see if that looks better than GTA San Andreas.
It probably would.
But I was looking up here for Behemoth too, because I was looking at some of their other titles, and it's I know Alien Hominid as well. I think what it is, like, I think I'm like scarred. Like, these are games that my kids love to play for like way too long. Like I'm talking like 4 weeks in a row, they wanted to play it for like 2 hours of Castle Crashers and stuff like that. My younger kid, Teddy, he in particular loved Castle Crashers, but he only liked like the first 2 levels and the first boss battle that's in that arena and everything. And then I never got into Alien Hominid. I tried my best to get into that game, and I never got into it. Have you ever played it?
No, I have not.
Okay. So you should give it a try. But I love Behemoth, and Behemoth I think does better than just about anybody else that cute, like fun art direction, which I think is critical for downloadable titles.
Yeah, at RTX they showed up with a life-size cupcake. I don't know what that meant. I guess it's from their next game. And it was just like this giant sculpted cupcake that you could like take pictures with.
And my kids love that. They love that cupcake.
And it's just amazing. It just, like you said, it nails that style. It's like super cute, and just like it really conveys the type of title that they're working on.
And then RTX, they had cabinets set up with, they were playing Battle Block, and I think they had Castle Crashers as well, right?
I think they did.
And my kids were sitting there just playing Battle Block the entire time. There's a cupcake. Unhappy cupcake.
Yeah, in their blog, they listed it as being life-size. I was like, that's the biggest fucking life-size cupcake I've ever seen. That's a cupcake that'll eat you. I'm going to read this. I want to remind everyone, this episode of The Patch is brought to you by Hulu Plus. You've probably tried Hulu on your computer. Hulu Plus is so much more. With Hulu Plus, you watch shows on your schedule. Hulu Plus has all the current season episodes of your favorite shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Modern Family, and At Midnight. Ooh, you can watch our episode.
There we go.
Watch every episode of shows like South Park, Doctor Who, and American Dad. At Midnight got an Emmy nomination.
I was going to say the Emmy-nominated At Midnight.
Emmy-nominated At Midnight. Hulu Plus works on your computer, smart TV, Roku, Apple TV, Xbox, pretty much any streaming device you already own. You can even watch on your phone or tablet, on the train, at work, at the dentist, or in the bathroom. You should be blocking off a day just to binge. With Hulu Plus, you're in total control to stream these and thousands more as much as you want, whenever you want. You'll also get access to originals that you can't get anywhere else, the Criterion movies, ad-free kids shows, plus anime and Korean dramas. For only $7.99 a month, you get your shows anytime, anywhere. Right now, we're offering a 2-week free trial when you go to huluplus.com/patch. It's a whole extra week free. Make sure you use huluplus.com/patch to get your extended free trial. They know that we sent you. So one more time, for extended free trial, huluplus.com/patch. Try it. Watch a movie. It's crazy to have the entire Criterion collection on there. Like, I remember that being such a big deal, when DVDs were first coming out. It's like, oh, what's the next Criterion release going to be? And now it's just like literally on demand. You can watch all of them. Yeah, stream it. Just like, oh, that one. Done. So easy.
The audience on Twitter is pretty split between 60 frames per second and 30. Like, some people are like, I would never go back to 30 frames per second ever. But you kind of have to for a lot of games.
It'll disappear immediately. You play that game for an hour, I promise you won't even see the difference.
I am acclimating. When I first started seeing high frame rate stuff, I was like, I just can't take this. And now it's like I'm slowly getting used to it.
I mean, and there's a big gap here. When we're talking about 30 to 60 versus when you're thinking about looking at a TV that was 60 to 120, that's a much bigger difference in terms of what your eye's going to see. The 30 to 60 gap is not as big.
30 to 60 isn't as bad for me. 60 to 120 is rough.
That's, in fact, 60 was always kind of the target for PC, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that was what I heard when they were trying to figure out, like, roughly what was the human eye's frame rate, and it was closer to 60. Was right in that range, was about what your max frame rate for your eye was.
You know, I do wonder, too, it's like, I wonder, and I know this isn't the way evolution works, but I wonder if you, like, went back to, like, the 1800s and you measured the frame rate of someone's eye, and you measured the resolution, like they do that for the Retina displays for Apple products. They tell you, like, this is the optimal resolution for your Retina. I wonder if it would have been different back then. Like, I wonder if, like, over time we spend so much time with screens and frame rates and things like that, if we develop, like, some kind of affinity for it. This is just a total hypothetical discussion.
Better or worse now that we're no longer, fighting for food and...
Well, like, we probably can see it a lot more noticeably since we're trained to look at screens a lot more now. Like, someone back then who had never looked at a screen would probably be much more acclimated to a lower frame rate.
When you go back and you look at, like, a football game from the 80s, like the Jets versus the Bills in 1985, like you see highlight footage.
Why is it always the Jets and the Bills? That's like the ultimate 80s football game.
Yeah, I don't know. The Jets were seemed like a bigger team back then. But I was a Jets fan growing up, I'm a Bills fan. But when you look at that stuff, you're like, this is horrendous. Like, even by any standard, this is miserable. And it was like, a lot of times when we see, like, the archive footage, it's film, and that like had a very consistent fidelity. But video footage from, like, taped games and things like that, broadcast games did not.
Right.
And, like, the titles they used and everything was
that
just
yellow
awful.
that they used in the titles was like, oh.
It almost makes a noise when it appears on the screen. Gunk.
It's got like a buzz to it.
Yeah, but it's like, I just think, I wonder if, like, over time, like, we've gotten used to it. And that's why I'm always amazed when you go back and look at some games and they hold up over time. Like, the franchise that consistently amazes me when I go back and look at it is Gears of War, and how incredible the graphics were on that game from the very first iteration of it. And it's held up so well over time. It's crazy.
Yeah, that game came fairly early in the 360 life cycle, and even towards the end, it still looks amazing.
This is one of the early games
Halo
that really...
3, I saw some screenshots the other day. I was like,
Yeah.
what? That game's 8 years old.
Gears of War was one of the early games that took really good advantage of the advent of normal mapping. You weren't seeing a lot of it until Gears of War came along, and they really used it pretty much to capacity on that system, which is what makes it look like it had much more polygons than it did.
Lots of bloom.
Lots of bloom.
Lots of bloom.
And lots of sad.
That really set like a trend that stayed around for a long time with bloom everywhere.
Yeah, I think we talked about before, there was a filter, I think, on one of the cameras on Halo 3's DLC when they had different camera looks, and one of them was next gen, and it was all blown out bloom. It was like ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there were some we're getting too off on the fidelity thing. We'll talk about something else.
All right. My next topic. I guess some Star Wars and some StarCraft and Guild Wars former developers have formed their own studio called Motiga and just released a trailer for the new game called Gigantic.
El Gigante.
I know nothing about the game other than what they've released so far. Like, I haven't read about it. Like, I just saw like a Facebook update of like, get on board with Gigantic. And from a marketing perspective, I've never had a faster downturn in interest for a game between like seeing the initial teaser image and then watching the trailer. As I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, this game's gonna be great. It's gonna be like a totally new kind of a game. And as I watched it, I was like, it's a MOBA, right? I mean,
it's essentially a MOBA, except your base is a giant creature that's mobile.
But it's not exactly.
It's not?
Well, okay.
That's what I gathered. It attacks and it moves around, and so you have to be mobile with it.
It does. The interesting part is if you watch to the very end, there's one tiny little segment of gameplay. And in that gameplay, what you can see is a bunch of little points that look like they could be kind of the towers reminiscent of Smite or League of Legends. And I got
a big Smite feeling from that trailer.
Yeah. And 2 altars, which I assume control your ability to summon that big beast thing. Now, I mean, that's just assumptions based on this, but there are still 2 bases.
Is that it?
Yes. So if you look at the top right, which if you can't see it because you're listening to the audio podcast, there's a mini map, and at either end there's still like 2 things that look kind of like altars, somewhat like a base that you would attempt to attack, and then a bunch of things that look like control points midway along the thing. So I'm gonna guess maybe the big monster thing fights with you, but maybe it's like a call-in, maybe it's not always there. I don't know.
What I read is the objective is to kill the big monster.
To kill the big monster?
Yeah, and you have to hit it in the heart.
Okay.
And that.
But you probably have to damage it far enough to where you reveal the heart.
Right.
And then,
I assume so.
Right.
So it's like that's the objective.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that it wouldn't just disappear, because if that was the case, I'd never summon my monster, because then the other team can't win if the monster's not there.
Well, I assume that's what I assume the altar's for.
So the other team could summon them?
Could just destroy the altar, I imagine. I don't know. Again, that's all speculation. The odd thing, too, was the character that you see being played in the one bit of gameplay is not one that's or at least doesn't look like any of the ones that they revealed in the trailer. It was a completely kind of mechanical thing. So there's a lot of stuff they haven't said. The other thing that I thought was really interesting that they haven't said is they haven't come out and said that it's going to be a free-to-play game. So,
I felt like the way they're announcing it, though, it did feel like a free-to-play game. But you're right.
They haven't said anything.
Yeah.
So, which, I don't know, do you feel kind of obligated early on to announce that it's going to be free-to-play? Or
I think a lot of that can be... when I look at it, I made those assumptions based on the way they were marketing it, and because I found out about it on Facebook first, it came up in an ad in my feed that's how I first heard about the game. Because I heard about it there, I assumed it was free to play. Like, if you're going to advertise a game like that heavily on social media, especially Facebook, it just implies free to play to me. It's like there's contextual cues, right?
Yeah, that's a good
seeing
point.
that stuff, but there's no indication that that's the case.
And nowhere on the website does it say free to play. But I mean, is there a MOBA that exists right now that is? I guess Dota 2 is not free to play, is it?
Oh, it is.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's not a MOBA that I can think of that is not free to play.
Yeah. It's a good point. I mean, what's out there? You got, Dota 2.
Dota 2.
There's tons. You're going to leave
yeah.
something out, and you're going to get blasted.
But I was trying to think of the
major players.
Heroes of the Storm.
But it's one of those things where here's exactly the way it worked for me when I saw it. I saw the image, the teaser image, essentially on my Facebook feed, and I saw this cool art of these gigantic monsters, and I thought, oh, it kind of cool. It looks like some kind of like Shadow of Colossus with these huge, massive monsters fighting each other and that kind of thing, and like a world in which those exist. I was like, that seems kind of cool. Then I started watching the trailer, and I was like, oh, this is neat. It's got kind of cool art direction. And then they started talking about it. I was like, you got to protect this big monster with a team of 5. You have to protect your monster, but you don't actually play as the monster. I was like, oh, so it feels like reverse of Evolve, which is kind of interesting. And they said, and there's another team of 5 and they're monster. I was like, oh, it's a MOBA. I mean, it was like as soon as they showed that second symmetrical team, they have 5 players and they also have a big monster. It's like, oh, yeah. And I get kind of disappointed in the video game industry in general because things go in trends, but because the development cycles of games are so long, trends seem to last way longer than the audience is actually on board with them.
Right,
you know
like World of Warcraft clones is probably the best example of that.
MMOs took years and years to develop, and it's like we kept seeing MMOs like long after MMOs were being launched and immediately failing. Right. You know what I mean? It was like, and you knew that somebody else still had an MMO in the works, and like, here's our MMO. Yeah. And then they would go free to play probably within 2 months. Like that became the new model.
Well, the interesting thing still, I think, with MOBAs, and I think differentiates them, is we're still seeing like twists on it and in some innovation. Like you look at Smite, which is more, WASD control as opposed to like clicking. And this one, where they're trying to maybe make the bases a little more mobile. Like I think that's the keys to try to find ways to innovate on that formula.
And I think it's a big reason why mobile games and independent games have seen such a huge surge in the last few years. The thing is, in early access.
The one thing though that I will say I didn't necessarily like the art looks pretty cool, except for the fact that again they've gone back to that trope of easily identifiable character classes. Like, hey, there's the big guy. Oh, he's the tank. Oh, right. There's the skinny guy. That's the DPS. Oh, there's the guy with a couple, things. He's the healer. It's so obvious what each class is, just based on every other game you've ever played that has class. I mean, it's very Team Fortress 2 almost in terms of
formulaic.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens with a lot of mass media, right? With movies and things like that. I mean, you have a clean act structure in movies and you expect to see certain things, and here's the character who's noble and's going to die, and things like that. It's just, it's tropes, but it's tropes in video games.
One of the things that I really liked, going back even a little further, is like in Far Cry 3, as you unlocked skills for your character, you got different tattoos on your arm. And obviously it's a single-player game, so no one else can see it, but I thought, wouldn't that be an interesting take, is if you had a multiplayer game where everyone looks more or less the same, but there's just identifying marks, like tattoos or something, that allow you to tell quickly what someone is.
And you guys did that on WoW based on knowing all the gear, right?
Right. Like you would know if someone spec PvP or PvE, but that's just rote memorization. The gear looks similar. It's like, oh, it's this color, or oh, the spikes are here instead of there. That's he's got the wrong armor set on to attack that guy. That's not quite. That's a lot more work.
Look how embarrassed you get.
That's embarrassing.
Your voice got quieter and quieter as you went through that. You spent a lot of time playing WoW.
I spent a lot of time playing WoW.
You should be proud of that.
Oh no, he's got the robes of desolation. Quick, run!
Yeah, come on.
God.
Be serious, Ryan.
Gus showed me one time, I was a warlock in WoW, and he showed me gear, which was like huge shoulder pads with skulls stuck on the spikes. And it was some Warlock gear.
I think it was tier 3 Warlock gear.
But it was like back when the level cap was, I think, was 60.
I think it was.
And I was like level 20. And I was like, oh, I'd love to get that. And then he described to me what it would take to get all the gear. And I was like, I'm never doing that. I was like, my dream of achieving that immediately died in the course of that conversation.
Just like very quickly.
Yeah.
I was like, that's going to be, that has to take over your life.
That was the World of Warcraft. Man, I can't talk. I need to get red leather, yellow leather. That was the trope from that, right? Was the bigger your shoulders were, the more impressive your armor was.
Right. I mean, what can you do at some points? I mean, you gotta you gotta have gear that like makes your character bigger and better. You know, I guess you can start your character completely naked when they're level 1, but you can only. How big can you possibly make them? You know, I saw some mounts recently from World of Warcraft that are out now that just look ridiculous.
It was tier 2 Warlock gear.
Tier 2 Warlock gear.
I'll see if I can pull it up on here.
It was. I was very impressed by it.
Yeah, it's impressive looking. It's the tier 2 PvE set. Which of course PvE is grinding out in the open world versus grinding out against other players, which is PvP.
I was always, whenever I played that game too, probably why I never got into MOBAs before, although I am starting to get into it now, is that I never went into the arena stuff in World of Warcraft. And it seems like that's where the MOBA movement came from, was the PvP arenas on MMOs. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, it probably comes more from the original Dota mob, which I believe was a Warcraft 3 mod. And I think that's where...
Like a more distilled version of RTS, that's where you see the MOBA movement coming from? Okay, I get that. Yeah.
All right, so what was I going to talk about next? Sorry.
Well, let's talk about early access. So we briefly mentioned it a second ago, like trends in gaming. And right now they've announced that both PS4 and Xbox One executives are saying that they're thinking about introducing early access to the consoles.
Yes.
And I think Joystick did a poll.
Yeah, so from what I understand, it's actually the PS4 executives who said that they want to try to figure out how to get early access on the PS4. And it's the independent developers, part of the ID at Xbox program, who would like to see early access available through Xbox.
Okay, so PS4 executives and developers for Xbox One.
Independent, yes.
Yeah.
So you're right. Joystick conducted a poll asking their readers, should console games have early access? And when I looked at it this morning, 72% of the responders said no, consoles should not have early access.
Well, apparently
games.
I am a Joystick reader because I agree with all of them. Every 72% of them when I say I would be horrified.
Oh, there it is.
Horrified if they had early access on consoles. I just don't get it.
I mean, early access, when they're talking about early access, they're never going to have a AAA title with early access. I mean, I'm not.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Bookmark this. They're never going to have a AAA with early access.
Yeah. I'm gonna go all in on that.
What do you call the Destiny Alpha and
What
Beta?
was it? What are you going to be playing this weekend?
Early access that you'd buy into.
But you have to pre-order in order to get access to it.
You didn't have to pre-order to get in the alpha. You just signed up for it. You can just sign
into
up.
The beta. You
can just sign up for the beta too. Just go to their website, Destiny Game /beta.
No, but you have to get a code by pre-ordering. That's what
I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah.
I know it's true. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. This is all all hearsay until we actually see some actual proof. But
oh, by the way, speaking of going back to Gigantic, did you notice what the names of the characters were in that?
No.
Guardians. So Guardian is like the new word for 2015, 2014 going into 2015. Like the word for 2013 going into 2014 was everything was named Titans. Like it was Titan here, Titan there. And now the new word is Guardian. That's like showing up in every game. And like the year before that was the word precursor or predecessor or anything. It's weird how that stuff works too. It's like some words just make their way into the vocabulary of games. I don't put betas in the same category as early access, but I do think early access is a trend that should be best contained to the PC world. I don't think that console gamers are inferior gamers, but I do think that console gamers expect a more
polished,
consistent, and consolidated experience on the console. That's what I think they expect. PC gamers, they mod stuff and they're used to that. Early access makes sense on PC. I don't think it makes sense on console.
PC, you're like, oh, shit's crashed, relaunch it.
I think
on a console, it just got to work.
You're starting to imply a division in gaming that doesn't necessarily exist anymore. I think that there's
I have some comment sections that disagree with you, my friend.
There are. But I think a lot of the people, even the people that self-proclaim themselves as one or the other, probably still have multiple platforms. Granted, it's a price prohibitive thing for a lot of people, but still, if you have a console, you probably still have a computer that you can run at least some Steam games on. They pretty much all. I think a lot of people that are Steam gamers still have a console as well. So I think the walls between these groups are starting to break down, especially as hardware catches
We
up.
talked a couple weeks ago about Planetary Annihilation.
Yeah.
And it had a retail early access game, and it was on retail shelves.
Yeah.
Here's the way I think I look at it. I look at a console as a retail experience. Whether I buy it at a store or I buy it on the console, that to me is an in-home retail experience. I don't consider buying games like even Steam. I don't consider that necessarily retail, but I think for the average consumer, I think that's a retail experience, and so I put it in the same category as that.
Well, and here's the changeover that's happening right now is allowing all these indie developers into the console market,
Which is a good thing.
which is a good thing. I mean, but that's what comes kind of with that. That's how indie development is getting done these days, is early access. And so to expand the number of indie developers that are interested in coming to that platform, letting them sell early and continue their sales through the development is going to bring more of them in.
Yeah.
So if they really want to, and seeing Steam there with this really successful early access programs, granted, not all of them are good, but I mean, it's still up to you to decide what you want to play and then buy the game. But seeing how that's going for Steam, they kind of have, if they want to keep attracting indie developers, they have to do it to stay competitive.
And they have to attract indie developers.
That seems to be what everybody's pitching real hard is, oh, we got all the indie developers over here. Come over here.
It seems like a good time to be an indie developer. It seems like there's a lot of support going on for that from both PCs and consoles. I think they have their pick of where to go.
Well, also, I mean, it's like maybe indie developers don't have the obligation that AAA developers have, where an indie developer can come out and say, "This is what our game's going to be, and it's going to be incredible." Like, I'm curious, like what No Man's Sky can deliver, because after that Sony keynote at E3 this year, I was just like, that game looks incredibly, advanced for anything else that I've seen out there, and it's like they have to deliver on it.
Right. Well, they showed it.
High expectations.
They did it. I mean, I guess it goes back to that trap like we talked about previously, where you look at the Watch Dogs example, where
was
you
about to
see
say Watch
something,
Dogs.
it looks mind blowing and amazing, then you get the final product and it's significantly stripped down from that.
Right. Yeah. And it's like early access. They can put it out there. They can put the version they have out there now, and it's like, well, it'll be better over time.
Yeah. And eventually get there. Speaking of Watch Dogs, I read that apparently Ubisoft shipped 8 million units of Watch Dogs.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I guess it's sold well. Their first quarter revenue grew by 374%.
I'm really curious too. Wow. I don't know what the breakdown on that is by console though. They had a 360 and an Xbox One. Do they have a PS4 version of that too?
Yeah.
So I'm curious.
I didn't know there was
platform really.
I didn't know there was a 360 version. I saw Ray playing it the other day.
I didn't until we got a couple copies here. Yeah, I didn't realize, and it suffers going down to the 360.
Oh yeah,
pretty heavily.
Yeah, and like just graphically.
Oh yeah, especially if you get in water, it just looks ridiculous.
He was shooting people in their cars through the windshield, and the windshield wasn't blowing up.
Yeah, the windshields don't break.
Like they just stay there, and they were.
There's a lot of
shot.
just little things like that. Also, it looks really flatly lit. Like it's just kind of bright. It looks almost like someone just cranked the gamma and didn't bother with any kind of light or shadow. It's not pretty, but I mean, it's
an old piece
a
of
game
hardware
designed for not that. I mean, it's really not made to run on that. It's like the Game Boy version of the game that was made.
It seems crazy to me because it's like I don't see what it is about Watch Dogs that takes it out of the realm of like a GTA 5, which looks amazing on the 360. Does look better on the one, does look better, PS3 to PS4 and all that.
It's probably like the platform developed on, like the targeted system.
And then you can definitely tell. It's funny because you'll get those little cutscene moments where they'll show the characters up close, and the characters are really, much higher poly than you would have seen on the 360 or earlier platforms. That's like where that game shines. The in-engine cutscenes, but as soon as you pull out of that and you're getting a little bit further away from it, who cares?
Not quite as good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel we don't do segments on the patch, but I feel like we should start a segment where every week we do a weekly Star Citizen crowdfunding update, and we
what is it now?
They hit $48 million.
$48 million,
and they unveiled a new bomber to go along with this new milestone.
Yeah,
that's a big.
There you go. It is.
That's the $48 million bomber. Like the U.S. military at this point.
I have not pledged any money to Star Citizen, but it's a game I'm going to buy when it comes out. I don't know why I haven't just gotten on board with it.
I mean, I think they just showed the bomber design because that's what he's going to show up to the launch party in.
Like, it will literally be a launch party. Like, the party is in orbit. You must launch to get there. Everyone who's backseat gets a ticket.
So here's a crazy thing. The Chris Roberts is the developer behind this, guy behind Freelancer and Wing Commander, back with Origin. The Kickstarter for Star Citizen ended November 19th, 2012.
Wow.
Crazy stat. Do you know what the amount of the Kickstarter was?
I just saw it. Sorry, I can't
The amount of the
guess.
Kickstarter that they raised during their Kickstarter campaign, it doesn't say how long it was on here, but I'm assuming it was probably 30 days, maybe 60. But they raised $2.1 million and they had 34,000 backers. We actually raised more money for Laser Team than Star Citizen. They have raised 40 plus million, 45 plus,
48.
yeah, 45 plus million dollars
46 for over the Kickstarter,
after the Kickstarter. So that's crazy.
over a year and a half, about a year and a half past the end of the Kickstarter.
So it goes back to the development cycle of games versus other things too. I mean, that would be the equivalent if we were still raising money for Laser Team, which is a movie that we crowdfunded on Indiegogo. If we were still raising money for that December of next year, essentially a year and a half later. It's just crazy to think about. Or January of 2016, we were still raising money for it. Yeah.
Nice. We can make a lot of money.
At what point, though, I mean, with the game development, do you have to stop? Like, what are you giving money towards now?
I mean,
this is going to be the most innovative game of all time. What we're going to realize is that it's going to keep going like this. We're going to realize this is the game. it's like.
Do you want to continue? Insert $25.
We just unlock different ships every month, and we all get excited about it.
All you see is the art.
Yeah, and pretty soon after a while, people are like, "Hey, how come we're not actually playing the games?" We are playing the game. Did you see what we unlocked this week?
See if your credit card is the secret code that wins. Just like type it in.
It's like we've created vaporware. This is how it came to be vaporware. They just kept pushing out the mark.
They just
now
kept having to make more stuff.
Yeah.
And like it never ends.
Like at what point did we unlock a release date? I mean, what is the plan for it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or just anything coming out? Has there been any information about when the game is going to get in front of the public?
They've done betas, right? Or
And modules. Like
modules.
They had the hangar, and they did the cockpit, the space combat, like the dogfight thing at PAX East. So
they're making progress. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. I wasn't aware of that, and I haven't been able to experience it. Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to PAX Prime. They weren't at RTX, so give me a break.
So it's not a real game. Get out of here.
So I'll take a look at it. I'm probably going to be heading up to PAX Prime.
It costs less than $48 million to attend RTX as an exhibitor. I'm just saying.
It could have been a stretch goal. They could have unlocked a bomber.
Could have been a stretch goal.
At RTX.
For them, though, I don't think anymore we can call it crowdfunding. It's no longer crowdfunding. The game has got to be fully funded for whatever it is they're going to make, right? They're not going to...
They're still accepting money, though.
Well, now you're just pre-buying the game. That's all it is. You're just pre-ordering. I mean, you're not funding the game anymore. They're not unlocking new tiers of things.
They are. That bomber was just unlocked at the $48 million level. They're still making shit up.
I need to go to the website and just see what, like, are they advertising, like, just a little bit more? Come on, sweeten the pot.
Do you think they're just out of ideas? Like, fuck, $50 million. Space ponies.
Chris Roberts will come to your birthday party.
Yeah, I don't know.
Space ponies. Now I want to donate because I want a space pony.
You're welcome. That one's free. That one's free, Chris Roberts.
So I just looked up the Wing Commander film starring Freddie Prinze Jr.
Oh, I know.
And Matthew Lillard.
Matthew Lillard. That movie was a $30 million budget. I was trying to look up what do you think the budget of Wing Commander was?
I think they spent that all on Matthew Lillard too.
Well, Wing Commander actually, the game had a star-studded cast.
Mark Hamill,
John Rhys Davis,
yeah.
And was Keith David in it? I'm not sure if he was, but
Sure.
Biff from Back to the Future was believe in that as well.
They spent a lot of their money on Biff.
Yeah, but it was a big deal because it had full motion video, and they had like the Kilrathi. They had full props for them and everything else. I think Richard Garriott still has some of that stuff. He talked about it. On the podcast when we helped him launch his Kickstarter for
Shroud of the Avatar.
Shroud of the Avatar, yeah. Where is that game?
It's coming along. They just went through release candidate 4, I believe. Oh, no, sorry. So they're plugging along. They still have their updates. I think they're going to be releasing here pretty soon. The game's really far along.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where, you have a choice of consuming media. Like when I look at, like, say today, Entertainment Weekly, I believe, did a story on the first look at Avengers: Age of Ultron, and on the cover of it, they have two of the main heroes from the Avengers, and they have Ultron, the way Ultron looks in the movie, on the cover of the magazine. And inside, they have a lot of information, some story things that if you follow the comic, can give you an indication of what direction they're going to head with the story. But that that's content from a linear movie. So in a way, you're consuming early content analogous to the way you're going to consume it when it finally comes out. You're going to be like looking at clips and things like that. So maybe this is just where games are going in natural progression for games with early access, and you can choose. Oh, I was going to say no spoilers, but we actually just showed the image right there. If you don't, want
damn it.
See, and that's the thing, right? So you don't want to see what Ultron looks like. Maybe.
No, why would you want to see that before the movie?
But you know that content is out there, but because it's something that you're interested in.
I didn't know till now. You just spoiled the fact that there were spoilers.
Well, give me a break. Give me a break. I'm warning you. But you can choose to withhold that, seeing that stuff. Hopefully, and you can manage
impossible.
that before.
No, it's not going to happen.
Literally, especially if you're on a show like ours.
Yeah, we
have
cut
to see
that.
it.
This is live. So I just looked. Actually, Shroud of the Avatar just passed release 7.
Past release 7. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so Shroud of the Avatar is a game that I definitely want to play. I did back the crowdfunding campaign, but I have not taken part in any of the pre-access in any way because I know I want to play this game when it's done. And so, and I really don't, I'm not the kind of early access person where I want to like shape a game. I want the developers to make the game and then I want to enjoy the game when it comes out.
Yeah, I feel like, I backed Shroud of the Avatar also. I have not, I think I installed release 1, and then I had that thought where I was like, no, I don't want to. I'm just going to wait to see the polished version.
So maybe that's where we're headed. The sophistication that people have with consuming movies, they'll just apply that to games of like, I know this is early access, so I'm not going to partake in it. I'll play Watch Dogs because it's finished, and I'll play Shroud of Avatar.
Would you want to see a movie before they're done with the visual effects?
Right. I wouldn't read an article about the new Star Wars movie. I wouldn't sit there and read an in-depth article about how they did visual effects before I went to see the movie. I'd make sure that I went and saw the movie first. In fact, when the Star Wars trailer comes out for Star Wars Episode 7, I will have a decision of like, do I want to watch this trailer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, considering the track record of Star Wars, you might want to watch it just to go, I think I'm just going to sit that out.
Beloved franchise. How dare you?
So beloved.
Half of a beloved franchise.
J.J. Abrams at the helm.
I'm excited. Don't get me wrong. I'm ready for this.
Yeah, I don't know. They're doing crazy stuff with Star Wars, too. Not to get off into the movies. We are starting a TV and film podcast. Soon. But they're doing crazy stuff, though, where they're not just making 3 more movies. They're making a bunch of side movies in there as well. So that'll be interesting.
One about Boba Fett?
What about Boba Fett? Yeah.
Boba Fett's finally getting a movie.
Finally.
It's just going to be his life inside the Sarlacc pit monster. This sucks. 1,000 years of digestion.
There's actually a great robot chicken that covers Boba Fett in the Sarlacc stomach. It's fucking funny. You got to see it.
Look for that. Next topic here. Apparently, I guess they were at a conference I believe it was a conference in the UK, at the Develop 2014 conference. Andrew House, who's one of the heads of Sony Computer Entertainment, revealed that they rewrote their E3 presentation the weekend before they delivered it, based purely on the backlash they saw Microsoft was getting over their DRM policies.
They didn't make that little sketch of trading the games. They didn't make that beforehand. That was totally in response.
Yeah.
Sony not stupid.
They said they didn't change any of their messaging or they didn't change any of their plans. They just changed the messaging and the way they delivered it.
Absolutely disagree with that. I don't even believe that part of it. I think those, even when they put the consoles out, I think they know exactly what they can charge for the consoles. I know this is deep conspiracy stuff. I know they have arrangements with retail outlets and everything. I still believe whoever goes first sets a price, and the person who comes after them bases their price on the first announcement. I really honestly believe that. I think all that stuff is variables, and they take different scenarios and plug them in. That announcement, you sent that out as notes for the patch, for this week's patch, didn't surprise me at all. Were you surprised that they changed their address?
No, like I said, it would be ridiculous not to. I mean, if you see that happening, that's the best moment to target your speech. They have just handed you the playbook and said, "Here, take me apart."
You see what everyone hates. You're like, "Oh, perfect. That. We're just gonna change the way we say things to address that."
Yeah,
they were. If you can accuse a corporation of this, they were a little shitty though with some of the stuff they did.
That video was a little mocking.
Yeah, there was a little bit of foot on the neck and a little bit of grinding with the foot. You know what I mean?
But it's good. I mean, we talked about this before. The PS3 was in such a secondary position compared to the 360. It's good to see them, stepping up and reaching some equilibrium. And
look at the effect that all that backlash had on what the Xbox One turned into over the course of a year. There was it just recently went through an update, the one that I had we pulled it out.
You can snap achievements. I think.
Snappable achievements.
Yeah, and so with all the progress on them as well.
For the ones that make use of that correctly, there's still a bunch of games that don't. But
yeah, it's unfortunate. But
we're early enough in the cycle
thing.
where going forward, like next year, you're not going to remember any of the games that didn't do it.
Sure. Just like when achievements first came out, there were a lot of games that didn't implement them
1,000.
correctly. Oh, Jesus. Don't get me started.
Or had 8-point achievements.
Yeah, but that's like acceptable to me. I don't
That's
know
acceptable?
why. Yeah, I'm not
Random
one of those people.
numbers?
I'm not one of those people who's like utterly like haunted by the fact that I had a gamer score. I did get it to where it was a 5 or a 0 at the end, but for a long time I had it and didn't even notice that it was like that.
Yeah, I think Marathon 2 had a 7-point achievement.
Mine was Crash Bandicoot. I'm more embarrassed by that than my 3-point achievement at the end. And I actually went back and finished Crash Bandicoot in order to get it. That was a game that I lost to a USB drive. It ate it.
That's a recurring theme with you.
Yeah, it really is. Well, you know what it is? I was one USB drive that ate literally every save I had. So it was either games I had completed that I didn't care about anymore and wasn't going to go back and play, or it's games I had in progress that I was working on slowly over a period of time. They were all gone.
Meanwhile,
Jack?
you can't keep a Walking Dead save to...
Yeah.
Go, cross my fingers, man. It's been fine so far. Since my 3rd playthrough, I've not had to do it again.
I saw a really funny post on Reddit, which was, and I don't think this is spoilers, even though they listed it as spoilers on Reddit. It was the character Clementine, and it said, and the prompt from the game was, that hurt Clementine's feelings. And the guy's response to it was, restart game.
Start over.
That character, that's a very well-written character. It might be one of the best written and performed characters in the history of video games.
Telltale
10.
announced that, I guess, episode 4 of Season 2 of The Walking Dead is coming out this month, and we should expect more news about it next week.
Meg's excited. Meg's a huge walk.
She
She has a mouthful of food, too.
She's eating.
Yeah, Meg's a huge Walking Dead fan.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited for the next installment in that. Also, we're running low on time, by the way. We have like about 5 minutes left.
Oh, no. What will happen?
I guess
Will we end on time or won't we?
Insomniac
Stay tuned.
inadvertently announced that games are going to be available for digital pre-orders on Xbox Live soon. During one of their like Sunset TV promotional series, someone asked a question, and they said that if you pre-order the game digitally, you can get day 1 edition content. So it's weird because you can't do that yet. So it seems to imply that sometime between now and their launch in October, you'll be able to digitally pre-order games.
It'll be interesting because I wonder then, with the pre-ordering, that seems to be kind of old school brick and mortar. Like one of their last things that they have is that you can go ahead and pre-order the game there. I wonder, like, when they have exclusive pre-order items based on retail chain, which is a common bonus, will the first-party pre-order bonus be better? Yeah. And that'll be a thing they'll have to actively debate internally when they're doing that.
We kind of actually talked about that last week because GameStop's really going after developing.
They're going to be involved in the
specific,
development process now.
They want to have really good stuff for GameStop.
I want to make a prediction here.
All right.
I bet when they first put out pre-orders for games, I would not be surprised if there is a product that goes up on shelves at retail stores, which is a code that you buy at a GameStop to go home and enter to get a pre-order on your console.
The extra content, just purely the extra content.
Just like they're selling in a brick and mortar store the pre-order for the digital product on the Xbox or on the Sony. I could totally see that happening.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's basically a DLC code, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like instead of pre-ordering the game at the store, you're pre-ordering the game on your console while in a store. And you go home and unlock it. I will bet that exists. I will bet as weird as that is, that exists. It's probably like some weird like mediation negotiation that they made.
Well, I mean, when you can already go and buy points and like credit for the online store that way. So
sure,
it's only like a small step from there.
It's huge for people who don't have credit cards.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's their profit anyway, right? I mean, that's the thing they really want to sell. The games are all pretty much price locked, so they're not making a lot on the actual game. But the extra stuff,
and then they want to sell a used game though.
Yeah,
so they do
want to sell
they do not have any opportunity to recoup that as a used game if they sell a digital version.
That's an excellent point too.
And if they can sell the code, they can get people to come in and bring in their used games and then sell the code.
So now you're going to buy a used game, and then if you want to play online, you got to buy a online pass from the developer, and then if you want the extra content, you've got to buy the DLC code from the store.
What if you could turn in your code? Be like, I don't want to play this game anymore. If you could deactivate from your console,
code?
and then you could buy a code to refresh that code and make it new again.
We've gone too
So it's like a
far
used
down
code?
the rabbit hole. Too far down the rabbit hole.
Computer vaginoplasty.
It's just like two prime numbers, right? You end up with like this other like non-prime number that's created through the hash of both of them.
If you pay for all that with Bitcoin, we've officially gone too far. There was a guy I was with, we did a speech with at V2V, which is a South by Southwest offshoot that's in Vegas. It's basically for startups. And he did a whole presentation on Bitcoin. Talked about one of the first things ever physical product bought with Bitcoin was a pizza. A young kid who had Bitcoin but didn't have a credit card convinced somebody else in the forums back when they were just trading them and they had no real value or very low value. He traded somebody on the forum Bitcoin in order for them to order a pizza for him with his credit card in his town, and they did it. And it was the first official thing that's recognized being bought with Bitcoin. That pizza today, $6.2 million. That's what the amount of the Bitcoin they used to purchase that pizza.
Oh my god!
Wow.
That's amazing.
I hope that wasn't his only Bitcoin.
No, it was long ago. It was way before the run up.
That's amazing. So we're pretty much out of time here. There's a couple of quick things I want to mention. Firefall is finally getting an official release date.
I called it. I want to say I called it. You guys told me we would never have a release date.
July 29th.
Longest early access ever. Was
July
it 6
29th?
years?
I don't think it's been. Yes, July 29th. I
So
don't
they're
think it's been
dropping
6
right
years.
alongside Last of Us?
I think it's been 4 years.
I'm gonna look up when it officially went into.
I want to say we saw it 4 years ago. I want to say we saw it at 2010 at PAX Prime.
No, it's already been updated. July 29th, 2014 is the official thing. Officially announced September 8th, 2010. Sorry, 4 years.
Fucking nailed it.
You
PAX
did.
Prime 2010.
You got it.
Also, I guess Cat Lateral Damage finally finished their Kickstarter. They got
Yeah.
$60,000. They had a $40,000 goal. I played a little bit of the demo earlier today just to refresh myself. That's actually it. I captured myself playing it.
We have a Lindsay versus Gavin versus actually in this game.
Point of the game is just to knock stuff off of shelves, which is
Lindsay's gonna destroy him.
No,
amazing.
Lindsay got destroyed by Gavin.
Are you
Lindsay
shitting me?
challenged Gavin to this game and got annihilated.
That's unbelievable to
Apparently, Gavin is just a terror on a shelf as a cat.
okay.
So if
we're
he
at-
ever comes back as a cat, we're in trouble.
Potato salad's
We're
up
at
to $50,000 on Kickstarter. by the way.
Potato salad is up to
Also,
$50,635.
I beat FTL.
Suck. Let's talk about that when the lights go off.
Oh, damn it.
All right.
I also want to say before we end, stuff we played this week. Actually, the thing I played this week was a movie. I watched.
You played a movie?
I watched Free to Play on Steam. Free to Play is a documentary about the International, the big Dota tournament, which was $1.6 million. And if you're not into esports or you have never understood like MOBAs, like Dota, League of Legends, things like that, you should absolutely check out the movie. It's fantastic. I highly recommend
It's
it.
free to watch.
I had it. I don't know how I had it. Maybe I had a code at one point, but I just was able to play
I'm pretty
it.
sure it's on. I'm pretty sure they put it on YouTube also.
Yeah,
So you can
it's
check it
nothing
out.
but an advertisement for how awesome Dota is. Now I want to play Dota every day.
Well, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you all Monday for RT Podcast and Wednesday for the patch.
Bye, everybody.
So you.